Hey everybody, my name is Drew.
I'm Bryan.
And we are the Men Who Stare at Cups live from Phoenix Ridge
Studios.
Indeed, sir. Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right, so today we're talking about existentialism versus
feminism.
Yeah, that's right. This is going to be a good one. This is going to be good. Well, because so many men who are deep into that Jordan Peterson, Dostoevsky, Kierkegaard, existentialist phenomena about, toxic masculine power think that feminism is the enemy. And here today, we are here to confirm all of your suspicions that existentialism is in fact the way to go.
Okay. So, what are we doing about feminism?
What are we talking about?
Why are we talking about feminism?
All right. So the reason I ended that sentence that way is because, and I hope that
I don't even know what's going on.
I hope you enjoyed the clickbait, by the way, on existentialism versus feminism. But the actual thing is that existentialism is the way to go. And when you think that existentialism is the thing to do, all other isms cease to matter.
Isms, they're just pseudo-intellectual jisms. You know, flush them down the toilet.
Jisms.
They're no good.
Yeah, they are. You
don't need them. You don't need them. You really don't.
No,
you don't want to get consumed by it. It's just going to drain you. And then you start to become a caricature yourself. I think the more you obsess over the caricature of your enemy, the more you yourself become one.
Well, so that would imply that feminism is some sort of enemy, or that
it is for a lot of people because young men are being antagonized.
Yeah, sure.
That's true. I mean, that's why the whole Jordan Peterson thing happened, is because there's a bunch of young guys. And, even moms are being like, moms are feeling bad for their sons because their sons are like, I suck.
Yeah.
I need to step down so women and minorities can take over the world, and I hate myself.
Well, sure.
That sucks.
It does suck. There has always been an ism that is there to try to tell you how you ought to live your life beyond you deciding that thing.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the 1500s, it was, Catholicism. And they were trying to tell you, this is how you need to define the meaning of your life. Right?
Sure.
And before that, there was like the Roman Empire and, and Stoicism, which is like a kind of like a fun form of it's a much more like a Spartan version of existentialism. I mean, really, it's only for those who are very hardcore.
It should be, yeah. Like the whole Marcus Aurelius thing, he wrote that all for himself, right? Like he wasn't trying to tell anybody else, like, this is the philosophy that you should adopt.
It was just his shtick.
And that was like his little grimoire, his personal notes on like how to be this kingly stoic guy.
Yeah, and Seneca kind of presents the same sort of ideas. But at the end of the day, feminism is just another ism that's out there to try to tell you this is the framework that the world should operate in so that everybody can be equal. And of course, what we know now is that there is no such thing as equality of outcome. So isms try to say, look, if you all abide by this ism, then everybody will have the exact same outcome moving forward through life.
Or I think at the very least, well, this is the best we can do. So ethically speaking, we should at least be moving the ship in this direction, or else you are unethical.
Well, and here's the thing. You don't want to have 500 million people individually deciding what's good for them if you want to remain in power.
Okay, so we're really getting to the heart of it. Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah. Like
these are commands. These are like little like operating systems or like programs that people in the higher echelons of society, in the priest class or whatever, create and design, much like someone would make a program and then shoot them off into the collective consciousness in order to have like some semblance of control over everything.
Yeah, and in this way, I'm definitely more of a believer that no one is really sitting at the helm of the isms of the world. I think that society just decides to pick a new framework to enable the weak. and then everybody who wants to remain not necessarily weak. I mean, maybe weak. I had an experience here recently over the last couple of weeks, and I was encountering an individual who, they're about to become the top dog valedictorian of school, and then they self-sabotage and get expelled from school or something.
Wow.
They're in the top of their military, course of action. They're about to become the senior officer, and they violate a rule with email and get kicked out of the military.
Oh no.
What I've realized, the person's in their mid 40s, and what I realized is that the reason that they self-sabotage is because everything in their life is going perfect. It's going fine. It's going great. And everybody thinks that they're this perfect individual. And so they create this kind of random, very simple storm that will unravel it. And the reason people want to unravel the success that they've had is because they're not ready for the responsibility that will come with an enhanced position. So, to protect your responsibility level, or to keep your responsibility level as minimal as possible, one must then adopt the kind of peak victim state, because the victim cannot take responsibility for anything. It's always somebody else's fault.
So like if we're doing king, warrior, magician, lover, it would be like the dummy magician.
It would be somewhere between the dummy state and the victimized warrior.
Oh, the masochist.
Yeah,
masochist and the dummy.
Yeah, or the abdicating king, or the I'm not good enough hermit state. So these are all the different. I mean, it could take a million different variations within the victim responsibility, abandonment. No one's ever going to love me. When you talk to alcoholics, it's never their fault. It's their wife's fault. It's their boss's fault. It's society's fault. It's the, corrupt state that they were raised in's fault. It's never anybody's fault that they're an addict. Mm-hmm. It's always somebody else's fault. And so when somebody wants to remain in a state where you can complain, there's your dopamine source. So you still have a source of dopamine, but it doesn't require any effort on your part to take responsibility. Ergo, the victim side attaches in.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always been an ism that enables people to remain as victims.
Lots of them, in fact.
Most of them.
Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you here.
Oh, that's fair.
Because I'm the tinfoil hat kind of guy. And I actually do think a lot of this stuff is totally by design. But it takes advantage of what happens organically.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like if you believed in astrological stuff, which I'm like kind of about. But if you somehow knew, like, oh, we're entering into this kind of thing, and the energies are going to be like this, and you just know the patterns so well, and then so you're able to kind of mess with things a little bit easier because you understand this stuff so well.
Okay.
I do believe there are think tanks
Sure.
and gajillionaires that do this stuff very
I'll go ahead and go with surfing then.
Yeah.
They can't create the magnetic pole that generates a wave. They can definitely orchestrate how that wave is surfed
Yes.
by society.
Right.
Like the waves come, and there is a way of saying, okay, look, we're gonna build
Take
this.
advantage of what's already happening. So it
Correct.
almost makes it look like they're the ones doing it if you can kind of see beyond the veil. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they give the controllers a little too much credit.
Yeah, you can't give the media too much credit,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't give feminism too much credit. No. You can't give religion-isms too much
Whatever
credit.
your thing is, maybe you're more of a left-wing kind of person, and you're like you think the overtone window is going the other way, and you actually and or maybe in your world it is.
Yeah.
Whatever, it's still the same thing. It's like you're taking an ideology and you're scapegoating on it, and you're doing the victim.
Yeah. So today what I really want to cover is the kind of idea that feminism is some sort of enemy to either to masculinity or to the approach to existentialism. That one should forego what God has called them to do in order to join with the identity of the masses and embrace that your identity in the group is more important than your identity as an individual.
Yes.
So the first real kind of critique of feminism is that we live in a hierarchical patriarch state. So I was talking with my wife the other day, and she's doing this course, and in that course she's doing intimacy training, intimacy coaching, and she works a lot with women in this course mostly. And so women, if they are having a difficult time becoming aroused in their life, like maybe they're disconnected from their physical body in that way.
Okay. Because of trauma?
Yeah, or something. They might actually have to create some sort of video in their head that would help them to, basically like a guided meditation to get you in the mood.
Oh, okay.
Right. I can see what's that all about? And the hilarious part is, of course, men, there's not a man on the planet who would need to have
funny.
I'm
going to try it.
Okay. Oh, I'm there. Okay. Brian, you made it. You made the video. No. So the hilarious part about, so I'm going somewhere with this, which is to say that women actually need to have this kind of guided visual meditation thing to arrive at a thing to shoot at.
A thing to shoot at?
North stars.
Oh.
So men are oriented to a North Star, generally speaking, and women, generally speaking, are oriented to Eden, to the walled garden of paradise, wherein the job is not to visualize a better Eden. The job is just to make sure that there's food to eat, make sure that, there's no hawks overhead, make sure that there's no tigers in there, or make sure that there's no enemies on the horizon.
I gotcha. And you can definitely observe what you're saying with men in the way that we dork out about things.
Correct.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
I remember that as a young guy being like, I've never met a girl that's as much of a dork. I mean, I have, but they're rare.
They're rare.
As much of a dork about something that I am.
Yeah, and so we've talked about
obsessive nature,
We've talked offline about women and men being hyper attracted to women who are really into some sort of niche male thing, like the girl.
I'm sure that doesn't go well though.
Okay, what does right? It doesn't go well.
But here anyway.
But guys are really attracted to it, to the
sure.
Angelina Jolie in Gone in 60 Seconds as the ultimate, gear wrench, car, speed boost, babe.
I mean, I could see that. If I found a girl that was a really good bass player, I might be like,
yeah, you might be really into it. Yeah.
I feel like that would either be great or terrible.
Well, I don't know how much it technically. It's such an oddity that you would never include it into the things that women generally do because it's such an oddity. For a woman to be that obsessed about a given niche to the level that that men in that niche are also interested in it. Okay, so what I'm getting at here is that feminism is one of those things that is what happens when you get an over-obsession with Eden, right? And then you attack the idea that men are always out there, why do men build most things? Why do men create most things? It's not because of the patriarchal nature of things. It's because men visualize organically that they want a thing to occur, and then they go and make the thing occur because they have a natural visual North Star setting instinct that's just inside of your average guy. Now, if he's got his hormones are all out of whack, his dopamine's out of whack, his testosterone's out of whack, his cortisol levels are too high, and all of those North Star setting, goal setting, high achievement things, they're all going to be super suppressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
and ideologically suppressed if they see their weakness as a strength by taking on the isms.
Oh yeah, and as you go through and take on this idea, so then you're like, I'm low thumos, I'm low creative, logos. I speak and then it is creative.
This is good because this makes me less oppressive.
It should make you less. What do you mean less oppressive?
Well, because you're ineffectual.
Oh.
So then, therefore, how are you going to oppress anybody?
Well, if you don't have the ability to oppress anybody, then you can never be a tyrant. You could never be a bully, and more importantly, you can really do nothing wrong if you don't have the ability to oppress anybody. You can't cause positive change either, but you also can't cause negative change What you can cause by not progressing anything forward is deep stagnation,
That
which technically is,
you could be very evil too.
well,
actually,
I mean, drinking from stagnant water is pretty, like take a waterfall. It can like reshape mountain ranges,
Yeah.
right? But it can also kill you if you get in the water.
Okay.
But then you have stagnant water. It has no power to change anything. But if you drink that water, it'll definitely kill you.
That's a pretty good analogy, because what I was going to say is that the evil, the damage that can do is in, just acquiescing to really terrible ideas, because you don't have the balls to confront and say, no, this is actually a terrible idea.
Right.
So then basically Agent Smith just starts going bloop, 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 because there's no resistance. And then Agent Smith is like, let's go walk off a cliff. Let's shut the world down for 2 years.
Yeah. Or let's make all of our kids take Adderall, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't want
That's not gonna happen.
We don't want to have. What are we going to do with all this North Star energy? We've got to
so
get
bad
rid of
for
it.
people.
Everybody, let's get everybody on drugs.
Yeah.
So it's not this idea of that the existentialist whose job it is to figure out the meaning that they have for themselves. And of course, I argue that the true existentialist not only asks what has God called me to do in this world. The true existentialist says, what has God called me to do, and in what community am I supposed to serve?
Well, let's be fair. If anyone's wandering upon this channel, obviously you're talking about theistic existentialism.
No, I definitely.
Kierkegaard.
No, I definitely apply more the Jordan Peterson. What is God? God is the highest value in the set of all of your values.
So that's the approach I'm taking with that.
Yeah, so that
Of course, you're Christian. You believe in God.
Sure,
God,
that is true.
But someone who wasn't necessarily there, maybe they're more in the absurdist existentialism camp or
Totally fine.
whatever. Yeah, this would still apply to
So-
existentialism across the board. Yeah. Continue.
In Jordan Peterson's 17-hour long 4-debate series with Sam Harris, the first 50 minutes of the first episode is trying to come up with an adequate definition of God. In which case, Jordan Peterson's argument is that God is the highest value in a set of values. I happen to like that because it orients you to whatever the thing is that you value above all the other things. And then you can decide whether or not your laziness is actually the God you want to be worshiping, because clearly, as stated by your life, because Viktor Frankl says, they say, if you want to know what you think the meaning of life is, just ask yourself what you did yesterday.
Yep, good stuff.
So I think that what happens, I think the big trick of isms, feminism, is to get you so focused on Eden and so focused on whether or not you are being a good person, right? Like when somebody came up to Jesus in one of the Gospels and says, "You're a good man, you're a good person." And Jesus says, don't call me good. Only call my Father is in heaven good. But the idea there is that you don't want to be striving for niceness, peak level good, because that would state that you're only going to do the things that you think are like when you take a risk, you don't know whether or not it's going to be correct or not. It is a risk. Like when you go to start your own business, that's a risk, and you are putting your family's in jeopardy. And if you don't have a family and you start a business, well, you didn't go to college. There's all these other things you said no to when you said yes to starting a business. And so you could be wrong about your business and you could be jeopardizing your future. So there is no such thing as doing anything without the potential of that thing going horribly wrong.
There's no choices in a vacuum. Everything kind of is affecting everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there is no good decisions. There's just decisions. And then God is the one who's supposed to handle, God in the theistic sense, handles the results. You do your best, and the universe handles the results.
Right. I think we were talking about this before. I mean, one of the things I like best about God in my life is the exact point where I go, okay, I did it. And of course, I don't think you have to believe in God in order to do this, but it definitely helps if you go, okay, here's exactly what I can do and no more at all. And if I try to do any more, then I'm actually, it's almost like I'm I'm blaspheming because I'm saying like, well, I'm God and I can handle all of this. And it's like, no, I'm gonna hurt myself and I'm gonna hurt other people.
Totally.
Doing that. That's not a good idea. So to know exactly what your limitations are, maybe push them a little bit. Yeah, definitely. We like that.
Sure.
We like challenge.
Sure.
But like, be real or else you're never going to get anything done. A lot of people who step into self-improvement, they have this huge vision and they put it all on themselves immediately, and then it's self-improvement, and then they're good for 2 weeks. They get crushed by it all.
The guy who steps on the scale and thinks he's gonna, lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Do what you can right now. Exactly.
I think one of the most important aspects, and this is, I read The 4-Hour Work Week, which is written by Tim Ferriss, who's a huge Stoicism fan.
Yep.
And I think one of the most valuable parts, and that book is really a book of philosophy. I mean, it's, at its core, it's a book about your relationship to money, your relationship to work or working for work's sake, or your relationship to how your lifestyle is designed. The whole fourth section of the book, I believe, is about lifestyle redesign. So one of the things that I strive to do in my life, and I'm having some struggles with it right now because I can sense that there's some things that are out of balance, which is to say I have, like, this is the garden of my life. Okay? This is my little Eden here. And I want to have a tomato garden. And I want to have a pond over here. And I want to have this thing over here. And I want that thing over there. And so the goal of the existentialist, I think, in the beginning is not to say, well, feminism says I must have tomatoes here and I must have green beans next to the tomatoes if I want to be a good person.
Or any ism.
Any ism that's going to tell you you must have church in this corner, and then there must be your Bible study in that corner, and then there must be the mission trip in this corner, or you're in any sort of ism will try to tell you how your garden is supposed to be outlined, right? And then if they're a good ism, they will have the programs necessary to have the authority to put you into a state of accountability to an authoritarian person who will then go and, like a good cult leader, will design your life and enforce that thing on you.
Totally. Has anyone else noticed that the kind of modern pseudo-religion memeplex, which would include feminism and lots of other things, it's churchianity. Redux. All the same stuff.
Yeah.
All the same behavior, all the same beliefs.
Right.
I mean, look at the eschaton. Global warming. Original sin. It's our fault. I mean, come on. I could go on all day. If you guys haven't figured this out yet, just pay attention.
Right. So your job then is to say, well, in my existentialist garden, I actually have room for an entire grip of Zen stuff. Entire grip of Buddhist ideologies. Mm-hmm. I've got room for homesteading ideologies. I have room for physical fitness ideologies. I have room for work aspirations, right? And so then you decide, okay, well, in the work situation, what is at the top of my hierarchy in that space? And so I am a Christian. What does that mean? And what should be at the top of my Christianity in terms of meaning that I build and put into the world? And so one of the things at the top of that is actually doing this podcast, right? Like, I want people to be the person that Jesus saw when he died on the cross. He saw you as you. That's the best you can be, which is living as somebody who loves other people and lays down your life for them in a manner that God calls you to. And that's awesome. Okay, great. So existentialism versus isms, other isms, is that we must look at that and say, okay, AA says that I've got these things that I need to do. Okay. Does that work? Does this aspect of my Christianity work? College is going to tell me I have these things I need to follow. Is that correct? And then you build your own garden, right? Now, when you get married, now you merge gardens with your spouse. And now you got to have common core values that we both agree that the broccoli goes here. And this actually matters because 75%, or John Gottman, who's like the main marriage guy, I mean, he really showed that 70% of what keeps couples together is shared values. You know, like that's really the critical component. So it's not about the enemy.
Is that true?
Yeah, shared values.
Because I've heard the exact opposite. I've heard it doesn't matter at all. I don't know.
No, shared values. I mean, he did the study with like 55,000 couples.
What types of values, though? Like, can you dive into that a little bit?
What would he consider like shared values? So let's say you like the color red because it makes you all hot and bothered. I like the color red because it makes me feel angry like a bull. Okay? You like it makes you feel horny. I like it makes you feel angry. Okay? Do we share liking the color red as a similar value? Well,
No.
No. We don't like it for the same reason at all. So you're going to want to put red in the bedroom, and I'm going to want to put red in the workout room. And you're going to be like, well, I don't want to be horny in the workout room. And I'm going to be like, well, I don't want to be angry in the bedroom. So you don't share the value. So whether or not you share a value comes down to, do you want these things in your life for the same reasons to cultivate the same flourishing ideologies that you hold?
Okay, interesting.
And so that's what I mean by shared values.
Cool. All right.
So moving on. So I think that the hardest thing to do then is to say, all right, well, yeah, I'm beset by every side by all these people attacking hierarchies. I'm beset by every side by people who want to design my garden for me. Well, why are you even looking at them? It's like the whole idea of like, should I invest in other people's things? Like, why are you looking at putting your money in other people's businesses when you clearly are supposed to be building something that God's put you on this earth to do, and it's not to passively put your money into somebody else's dream?
Okay.
To me, it's deeply irresponsible.
Investing at all?
I don't know. On some levels, because I don't believe in retirement. I don't believe. So here's the deal. I don't
seem to either.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe in retirement because I don't see it as a what we would call a biblical Christian worldview, or I don't see retirement as something in nature. You could even put it that way if you want to. You could even approach this fully
like a pagan
Wicca
approach.
Yeah, like a full pagan approach to retirement is: do you see
you walk off into the woods
retiring in nature?
No, they just die.
Correct.
Yeah.
When they're done with doing their deal, they find a nice place, and most animals will have a method under which they want to die. Like a cat will like crawl under like a quiet space, like that's just how it works.
My retirement plan is abandoning all health procedures and just drinking and smoking myself to death.
Yeah, I mean, that will certainly work.
Yeah, I'd say 65, 70, like, whatever.
Well, that's what Alan Watts did.
Yeah.
And people got really mad at him for it, but he'd already traveled the whole world. He'd been married, 3 times, written a whole bunch of books. He's like, man, like, this is it. The world is an illusion, and I think I'm done with the illusion that we currently live in, and I'm out. Okay, fine. So, the first attack that feminism has is, I'm anti-patriarchy. I'm anti-individuals.
So anti. I'm in thisist. I'm a thatist.
Yeah.
I'm not anti this, and I'm proud of this.
Well, I'm anti you being able to decide what hierarchical value system you want to abide by.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. So the first thing is that, and this is one of the hardest parts about being a man, and this is what comes online when you're 18. Between 18 and 25, you start wondering what value systems you actually hold to. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I did.
I mean, most people do.
I reached peak nihilism at about 22.
Yeah, and right around 35 is when most guys will realize, okay, here's the deal. I started questioning stuff at 18, and at 35, 36, 37, 38, you start saying, after all this time of kind of meandering through world's value systems, this is what I want. And most men will decide at that point what they want, and they will go build their man cave.
Set it and forget it.
And they will be like, dude, and guess what? This is me. And then there's like a real hard, and Jung talks about this, Nietzsche talks about this, a lot of guys talk about it, that crystallization. And in fact, I think it's something like 85 or 90% of all men who get sober in AA, it happens between the years of 35 and 45.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And there was a stat a long time ago that 70% of people who become Christians become a Christian between the ages of 14 and 18.
Really?
Yeah. Because that's when that shamanic birth happens. Typically that Eliade talks about, and Victor Turner and some other guys, like they talk about how the liminal spiritual consciousness state, that kind of inner eye shamanic, what Christians would call the age of accountability. Like at what age is it that if you die, you go to hell because you knew better? That typically, and that has something to do with like, you know, do you know when you're abandoning your morals? Do you know when you're intentionally searing your conscience? Do you know when you're lying to yourself? Do you know when you're behaving in a way that is antithetical?
You officially have enough self-awareness to sin.
In a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And so that is also the same age at which, you know, deep rebellion can occur, but it's also the age at which, you know, you can set your life up for the spiritual trajectories to have all the kind of all that positive stuff occur. If it doesn't occur by 18 to 20, then generally speaking, it'll happen after the age of 40. I mean, that 20 to 30 decade, those are legit moral no man's lands. I mean, they are terrifying eras. And heaven forbid you follow any ism during that age timing.
I would never want to relive my life between 20 and 35.
No.
I wouldn't do it.
Hard pass.
Hard pass. Even though some of the coolest shit, probably in my entire life, however long that goes, happened around then. Really cool stuff happened. Okay, so very high peaks in there. But for the most part, it was just a shit show.
Yeah, well, it is. and it is for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, you go to college, you think you're all that in a bag of chips, you graduate college, and then
you're like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot.
Then you're back. Well, then you're back at the totem pole, you know, as a barista at Starbucks with a master's degree.
Sure.
Working next to a 19-year-old who decided not to go to college and just decided to become a barista. Sans the master's degree. So the first one is the anti-patriarch thing, which is basically saying, look, don't create hierarchies of values. The next aspect is please don't visualize you changing the world.
Let us do that.
Well, don't visualize you changing the world because, you know, the world must be changed by consensus. And Lord knows there's a great quote that says, balanced men may govern the world, but unbalanced men change it. Yeah, it's just a fun little one-liner there, but it's a good one. So
you got to
decide which one of these characters are you, and in the ism state, everybody must be the balanced garden. Everybody must be the good Christian, the nice guy, the equity above all things, diversity above all things, inclusivity. I personally would find it very insulting to be included in anything because I was a mouth breather.
I remember the feeling because I was really bad at sports.
Okay.
And I was kind of okay with it. After a certain point, I just kind of was like, all right, at least at this time in my life, for whatever reason, this just isn't my thing. I'm just
my jam.
I'm such an indoor kid. I'm done banging my head against the wall. And I think I have memories of doing some like these group activities and me being like, listen, I'm the last kid picked. I'm okay with it. Like, it's fine. You know, like I'll play along, I guess. And like, no, let's put you in a more important position. And I'm like, no, don't do that. In fact, that's actually way more insulting than just letting me be the last kid picked. Because now I'm going to get humiliated playing first base when I can't catch a ball. So, like, fuck you, bitch. Like, you're not helping.
Right. Okay. All right. Great. So you see what I'm saying? Like, nobody wants to be included because you breathe.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
And
it's a
you
horrible
stand
feeling.
there.
Yeah.
Like, I would prefer the exclusion because of something that I bring to the table, and they're just like, look, like when I applied for one of those jobs a while back, and they were like, you're too entrepreneurial, like you're not a team player, and we can tell that. So just like, you're smart, but look, here's the deal. We don't want an independent thinker around here.
They don't have that. They don't have to want.
Well, great. I'm so glad that they weren't like.
It's a great
I'm
reason
glad
to be
that there
rejected.
wasn't some sort of diversity thing where it was like must include independent thinkers, right? Because then I'd be there as this independent thinker, and everybody's like, "God, just get with the program, bro." And I'm like, "No, man, I'm an independent thinker." And they're like, and I'm like, "Oh man, I feel like I don't belong." But why did I feel like I don't belong? So why did they include me?
I feel bad for certain minorities because of the affirmative action kind of thing. Having to wonder, like, am I only here because of that?
Yeah.
And then they also must be thinking, well, I mean, half the people here must be thinking that about me. That stinks.
Yeah. And so
is that actually better than how it was before? I mean, I get the point of it.
Sure.
Totally do. I'm not gonna pretend like I don't.
Yep.
And I believe in the good intentions there. I really do. But like I don't think it works. I don't think it works very well.
All right. So to I'm going to take this one step further, and I think that this could get real. This could go real sideways real quick.
Yeah,
so
let's do it. Do a barrel roll.
I'm going to meander out onto a very precarious social limb here.
Okay.
And I'm going to use only pseudonyms or other things. So I know somebody who was talking to somebody who declared that she was a sex worker. Upon further investigation, it was discovered by
What's her name?
Huh? No. Damn it, Brian.
Give me your number.
Stay with the program. So I said, was the person, I said, is she based on OnlyFans? And this person was like, yes! And the more we started talking, I was like, oh, this must be a Twitch streamer girl who then brings the guys in through the Twitch streaming to see other things. And I was like, she probably plays like Call of Duty in a hot tub with a bikini on, right? And does the Twitch streamer girl thing.
Ugh.
And in the beginning, and she came out and she had said, it was really empowering in the beginning, right? Because, you're all on display and everything, and it's real empowering, and like, it's not prostitution because you don't have a pimp, right? It's not some sort of, it's nothing perilous because it's all over the internet, so it's safe, and you're deciding how much money you get paid. Tons of dignity, full empowerment. You are just using what the good Lord gave you via your body or charisma or what have you, to be able to be this empowered individual. Okay. The fact of the matter was, though, that she couldn't escape the fact that it all felt very, very, very wrong.
Well, you're literally enslaved to men.
By choice. But here's the thing I was going to relate to with regards to getting picked to play on the baseball team or whatever, and you get picked last. If you go about and you feel that this is empowering to you, every time you get selected to do anything, the assumption will be that you are being picked for your
Lack of
capacity to make men stoked that you're around. You'll never be able to go to a bank without thinking that I got this loan because of that. Everything that I get is because I'm being picked last. I'm being included not for who I am, but for how I presented myself. And you've created your own wall of shame and you've created a negative filter under which you then see the world. And every time you interact with somebody, you only see their decisions towards you through this nasty filter that you put on yourself.
So liberating.
Oh my God. It's a tragedy.
It's a dark phase we're going through right now. Also consider that young people, they just want to be famous for the sake of being famous. And that's really what's going on right now is, well, social media and all that shit. Anyone could be a star. And you can just be famous for nothing good at all. I mean, Call of Duty is fucking lame. I don't care who you are. That's a terrible game. If you play Call of Duty, it's okay if you play it, but you play a terrible game. It's like if you order pizza at Little Caesars. I'm not going to make fun of you necessarily, but it's terrible pizza, and it's just objectively true. Okay, so if you're on Twitch playing Call of Duty and you're famous for playing a stupid game because you have tits, you're not. Is that really? What if you were really good at the harp and you had tits? And that helps.
So you played like you're like the bikini harp player.
I mean, at least you can play the harp. At least you have some dignity there. All right, and you're throwing in the tatas. Yeah, I get it, but at least you can actually do something. At least that's actually dignifying.
Well, and that's true because a lot of times the Twitch girls are not good.
They're not good at anything.
They're not good gamers. This is true.
They're not good at anything. They're just.
So this goes back to the alligator and tilapia farm.
There it is.
Of the lowest caliber late stage capitalism, where all value exists in the form of convenience, fear, and uncertainty. What was the?
I mean,
we had convenience, fear, and entertainment. That's it.
Yeah, novelty.
So, a novelty, yeah, just newness, it's a strange world where when you go to, and this will bring us to step 3 of our isms issue, okay, which is the first one, of course, was not creating a hierarchy or not avoiding creating a hierarchy of values. So feminism would generally say, we have a group identity, we have a group values, you don't have personal values. The next one would say, okay, this is the garden that you should plant to be a good person and to fit within the good people thing, and this is how you cultivate said garden. Okay, and number 3 is going to be this idea of value production. Okay. So then, if I am a good person and I adopt your values and I adopt your garden, well then, what should I produce of value? And this is where the isms completely fall apart. Because this is the applied nature of an ism. See, Christianity will tell you how to be a good person or how to build your garden. But then you're like, well, how do I make money? And they're like, I don't know, follow your passions. And you're like, that's the worst answer I've ever heard in my life. Right?
Sure. Just be yourself.
Just be yourself. So then you're like, okay, so then you like start a landscaping business. Well, you got to pay your taxes, right? Well, there's a lot of tax write-offs, but now you're not paying your fair share of taxes. So now you're off the reservation when it comes to, what kind of good person are you if you wrote off more mileage than you should have? What kind of a good, are you still in the garden? Are you've established your own hierarchy of values?
I think you're a very good person if you didn't pay taxes.
Well, I mean, maybe it's because you don't think the federal government is responsible with taxes. But the issue at stake here...
Right, in principle, there's supposed to be a thing.
...is that there's no way of knowing whether or not you're occupationally, and so then you decide this. If I'm entertaining my base, I must be doing a great job. If I'm providing something novel and new, I must be doing something, but not so new that you're like creating a new technological advancement or something like that. Like you're just doing something to like you know, like when you see Christians who want to become Christian motivational speakers, and then it's just kind of like this, like it just kind of goes, you know what I mean? Like it's not expanding some sort of actual vision. It's just this sort of like, I'm wanting to just be good in my ecosystem.
Okay, like there's a predetermined role and you're just kind of slipping into it and it's kind of like all defined and here's...
Yeah, so like let's say you want to be a good feminist, well then you just go join a nonprofit that supports feminism. Mm-hmm. But can everybody join a nonprofit that supports feminism?
Yeah, of course. Let's go do it right now.
Yeah, and then all their jobs are just surrounded around nonprofits that support feminism because that's the only safe job that aligns with the garden and the hierarchy values. Everything else is going to have something in its value system that's going to compete with those two standard issue equipment for living.
So in summation, we're not picking on feminism. We're picking on all isms, really.
Yeah.
Whether you over-identify with one or many, or you identify as being antagonistic towards one or many, it's really all the same shit that it's always been. It's just iterating the way it is right now. And if you want to escape this hell, if you want to live in your own reality in a good way, not in a crazy way, well, maybe in a crazy way, I don't know.
Okay, so I just imagine. Okay,
why are you laughing?
You presented this option of like, well, look, here's the deal. If you don't want to live in the isms or subscribe to an ism, all right, like, hey, you're like, you know what? I don't want your hierarchy of value, your group. I don't want your group values. I don't want your group garden, and I don't want your group job. Okay, like. But yeah, we talk a lot about how one must submit to a group in order to enjoy.
Well, yeah,
all right,
it's an oxymoron.
So most of the people watching this episode,
yeah.
My guess is that if you were to walk into their life, you were to walk into their hierarchy of values, they'd be so mad at the feminists that they would have been looking at that and been so mad. They wouldn't like their hierarchy. They'd be just like jumbled mess of like spaghetti values. Like what is this? Is this like integrity over here? Like what was that? Like you hear like a cat screaming in the background and a dish breaking, and you're like, wait a second, is this interest in reading and exploration of consciousness? Oh, and like there's no actual structure there. There's just like I have a bucket of random ass values. But like I'm not going to like create a hierarchy of one because then that might look like some sort of structured ism. So I have no structure of values because screw you.
I am chaos incarnate.
Yeah, I just watch YouTube videos and get mad at things, and like I have values. Like
here's structure, good.
Wait, hold on. Let me find my positive articulation value. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. Okay.
I get what you're saying.
So I think that they kind of fall. I think most people watching this channel, and look, here's the deal: if you're watching this YouTube channel, you may not have a good hierarchy of values. So let's get one for you. Okay. Also, number 2, you may be so mad that they're out there designing your gardens for you that you're like, fuck this. I'm not even going to have a garden anymore.
There's the thing, like, yeah, I'm not going to get into the pod, and I'm not going to eat the bugs, and everything's foobar, and so why even try? Right?
Well, why try? Because if you don't build one, they've won also.
Yeah.
That's why.
And you're going to die.
Okay, so if you don't build a hierarchy of values because you're pissed at theirs, then they win.
They win.
If you don't build a garden because you're pissed that they want to build one for you, they win.
They win.
If you do not create and actually get a job and actually create value and set goals that make the world a better way in which God designed you to make this world, they win.
And maybe they should win because all they had to do was threaten to make you eat bug meal and live in a pod, and you crumbled.
You were just like, I can't even take anybody. I'm out of here.
Oh, and I've been there. I mean,
look,
I've been in very deep pits of demoralized despair.
Yeah.
And,
and to the depth that you've been in deep despair and nihilism, I have been in religious isms.
Sure, yeah.
So I have had an exact, same depth of my life sucks because they're planning my values, they're planning my garden, and now I have to work in the group. And you've been in that same state where it's like, you know what, like everything's so planned for me, then why do any of it?
And not even that it's planned. It's just that, I mean, I'm an asshole. I just realized that, like, I just thought most people were so sheepy. You know, I'd slip into that every now and then.
Everybody's
doing the 40s. And then I'd be like, no, Brian, come on, that's dumb. Don't be that guy. And then I'd be cool for a while. But then, man.
Yeah, but then you start preaching about Bitcoin, and then, you know, then you find that.
And it was the pre-COVID, it was the 2016 to 2020 where it was like, oh, wow. Oh, wow.
What came online for you during those years?
Just watching the social media and like the way that people started acting like so hive-minded and so high and mighty and so willing to commit human sacrifice at the drop of a hat while proclaiming, I am good, you are bad, I am good. And then COVID came and I was like, wow, most people are garbage, and I'm a musician and I want to make music to entertain people. You cannot make music in a vacuum. Music is for other people and yourself. That it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
You have to have that. And I'm like, well, if I hate most people, why do I want to make stuff for them?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Look, I hate everybody, but I want to be an artist.
Yeah, it sucks. It's stupid.
Well,
it was a very dumb place to be, and it was a very painful place to be, and I'm in a much better place now.
Wow. You know, but that is just...
I'm just telling the truth. That's kind of like where I was at.
That's a perfect example of what we're trying to say here. And I know for me, like there's certain things in my life still that I have not produced because I still have half of my garden that's controlled by even my own religious isms that I may not even know which aspects of my garden are still being controlled by those things. And I have never like worked up the whatever to say, maybe I don't think there's certainly areas where I haven't worked up the courage to say, do I really want to have that brick of my garden, of my life, be that thing that's there right now? Mm-hmm. And it can be perilous when you ask those kind of questions. You know, life can, you can really upend your life when you start asking a lot of those questions. But look, here's the deal. So we're going to be talking a lot more about this kind of stuff too, through the applied masculinity aspects that we're working on, the initiate.me stuff. But we do hope that you enjoyed this episode. Remember, guys, don't get pissed off because somebody doesn't want you to create hierarchy of values.
And do like and subscribe.
And if you're pissed off at this channel, then leave
a negative comment.
Just leave a negative comment.
We're okay with negative comments.
Indeed.
Because they're still comments.
Indeed. So. They will still help us grow.
Yeah.
So don't get mad at people that because they have a planned garden for you, right? And don't get mad because they have a plan for your life for you. Just don't get angry at it. Don't even necessarily acknowledge it. You do you. You do what God's called you to do, and you find the group that God's called you to serve. We love you guys. We wouldn't be doing this without you. And with that said, I'm Drew.
I'm Brian.
And we are the Men Who Stare at Cups live from Phoenix Ridge Studios.
Bye-bye.
See you later.